Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey, friends. Welcome back to the podcast, and Merry almost Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever it is you celebrate, I'm celebrating you in the midst of that. Thank you again so much for being here. Thank you for spending your time with me each week, or if you just binge while you're cleaning your house, however you take in this podcast, I trust that it is at exactly the right time that your heart needs to hear some beautiful nugget. And you know how I'm always encouraging you to just do the thing, to just say yes to yourself. And I know it can be hard to just do it. And then time passes and we think it's too late, and on, another quote unquote missed opportunity for what we really wanted. Let's stop doing that, okay? Let's listen to our hearts and start practicing acting on our intuition when it comes. One thing that I've been putting off is inviting you to join me for New Year's Eve. I know, it's like 10 days away from now, and that's okay. If this invitation is for you, you know it, and it's hitting your heart at exactly the right time. Some ideas are just like that. We're not meant to overthink them. Just be brave. You know, I said weeks ago, months ago, however long ago, on an interview or on a podcast episode with Jane, that bravery is empowered vulnerability. We need to trust ourselves and do the thing. So New Year's Eve at the Phineas Wright House, workshops centered on closing out 2022 and setting intentions for 2023. My friend Michelle has been saying 2023 is for me. And I love that so much. And I want that to be our collective mantra going into the new year. I want us to be envisioning our best year yet and how we're going to get there. There will be a fabulous dinner party to celebrate your big aligned plans. And you can add a farm stay because eek, the bed and breakfast is open. So you can safely end the evening when the clock strikes 12. So if this sounds dreamy to you, DM me on Instagram, send me an email, hello@phineaswrighthouse.com. The links are down in the show notes for you to get in touch with me. And honestly, if it's 4:00 on New Year's Eve and you're hearing this and you're thinking, shoot, I want to be there and I can get there soon, come, call me. I'm doing it. So I'm super excited to do it by myself or do it with you. So if that feels aligned for you, then please reach out. Okay, so some intuition hits require some fast action, and some actually do need time and space to navigate. And I found myself in such a place as I close out 2022, much differently than I started it. One thing that sustained me this year is community. And I treasure the community that I've curated over the years. One of these sacred groups are my 3 business besties, KB, Christy Neller, and Cindy Rodriguez. We've been meeting together weekly for over 2 years now. This group of queens are an integral part of my life, and they've helped me navigate this past year in ways that have encouraged and strengthened me. And I've asked them to join me today for my bravest episode yet. I am so grateful for them, and I'm grateful for you for listening. So without further ado, here is my brave conversation with my queens. Hello, my queens. Oh, okay. So I've already gotten farther without crying than I thought I would. And then there it goes. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for being amazing, being fabulous queens, being available when I don't need you, but I'm really grateful that you're available when I do. And so I just thank you for holding this space for me as I just give a status report of what is happening with me. As you know, 2022 took some turns, and I believe that everything that happens is in service to us for our highest and best. And I think the timing of when it happens is, of course, divine timing is perfect, but there's also a lot of resistance when we are in the midst of making courageous decisions that sometimes prolong our highest and best. Not to put anybody on the edge of their seats, and really just to move our conversation along. This year, Keith and I decided to end our marriage. Although that is 100% the best thing for our family, it's still, of course, painful, and of course, has a lot of layers. Although I know it's the right thing, although he knows it's the right thing, I also was under the impression that the timing would be a little bit different than what it's actually turning out to be. So my original plan was, we'll just have this internal situation and we'll work it out through lawyers and all of those proper routes, whatever that is. And then I'll share what's going on, because I really treasure this community. I really treasure my friends and my people. And so anyway, similar to when I decided I was going to start to have a baby, and, I was going to get pregnant here, and then I was going to be back in shape by this month, and it was all going to be great. And then 24 years later, I become a mom. So anyway, sometimes the timing is not my own, but all to say, it's taking longer to move through this process than I feel comfortable with without looping my community in. So it's starting to feel like I'm out of integrity. And so that's why I wanted to take this opportunity to share that I'm a single mom, a solopreneur that is running this beautiful, fabulous property by myself and raising Amelia here in the house.
I mean, Wendy, if I could just want to say I'm so incredibly proud of you for honoring what you need and for being brave with taking bold steps to support yourself and to fill your cup. I know I'm guilty of getting into robotic mode, and just because we are planners and also, we're visionaries, but we also are incredibly great at task mastering. And so a lot of that requires a lot of time. And sometimes we can entirely fill our day, our weeks, our months, our years, honestly. And you really honored being present in your life. You gave space and work towards a goal of working on being connected with your partner. And I respect that you guys both came to a decision that was about what was best for your world. And I think I admire women that, one, are present, two, do the work, to not be in robot stage. They really give themselves the space to not only address like mind, body, and spirit, but also we're all entrepreneurs on this call at the core of who we are. We're hustlers. We work. We have dreams. We know there's more out there for us. We want to believe that we're worthy of receiving that. And I just feel grateful to you, to the fact that you feel you're at a space in your life where you've reached this point where I want to share it with people. How do I do that? Like, just to get to even to that space of like, this is the time. You've given yourself and given us the gift of watching a woman go through a really tough experience and come out the other side stronger, more powerful, more inspired, honest, authentic, so many things. I can go on and on, but I really appreciate that you say, gosh, I'm not in integrity. And then you take action to get yourself back aligned in the lane that you're meant to be in. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for being so eloquent and supportive. This, as you guys know, but this was a question that I sat in for several months and processed. And I in no way want to be disparaging to my husband. I don't want to be, this is about me. And he is a prince, and that was totally fine when I was a princess. And I've made some changes in my life personally. I've promoted myself to a queen. I think there just can come a time in a relationship where things need to be reevaluated. And if everybody involved is committed to growth and committed to the relationship, then it can survive something like that. But if everybody or if half of the people want it to go back to the way it's always been, then I needed to make a decision to be in integrity at that point as well and move forward, regardless of what that meant for my marriage. And I'm so glad you guys are here, because I am not doing this well. This part well, I'm doing all the life part well. This conversation, I'm feeling like, can you just say what I want to say?
Yes, that's why we're here.
I'm so glad. Okay, say what I want to say.
Well, I don't know if this is what you want to say, but this is what I want you to hear.
Okay.
And I think you're modeling for people that going after your dreams is important work, and that sometimes it brings surprises that are maybe not what you expected. And we all have the power to do hard things if we feel called, right? And I think it's just a testament to, your wake up, your awakening of wanting the life that you want, wanting the life that you deserve, and seeing that it's actually there for the taking. And the only person who's going to get it is you.
Right.
You're the only person who can make that happen. And, I think it's really, for me, it's been such a gift to witness this becoming and to see what it looks like when you're able to step into the hard spaces and rise through them with integrity and grace and feel the feelings and still keep going. Right. And I think, we're talking about a marriage here, but this can be applied to so many things. You were talking about the journey to become a mother. We're talking about the journey to become entrepreneurs, or are entrepreneurs. It's a universal sort of issue or challenge to say, I want this thing. I can see it's there for me. Okay, now how do I get to believe that I deserve it? And what needs to happen? Who do I need to be to have all of that come in? And there's a lot about giving ourselves permission. There's a lot about giving ourselves love, deeply self-trusting. And, I think that's been something that I've witnessed along the way, is that you have this sense of self that you have peeled the layers back on and reconnected to in a way that's really strong and gives you the power to step through some hard things, and that's not to say like, oh gosh, the only way that we can have personal growth is to get rid of our current relationships or drop this or whatever. I don't think that's the message here. I think the message is, when we say yes to ourselves, there are going to be triumphs and there are going to be challenges, and we have the power to walk through both, celebrate both, and come out the other side closer to who we want to be. As long as we're walking through those spaces, not maliciously, and like you said, not with any ill intent, then that's what this is about. It's about this reconnection, this becoming, this seeing the possibility of things that you can't actually see yet. They aren't physically there, but they're there, and that they belong to you and you can have them. So I think, for me, it's this is such a fine balance of really difficult and really liberating. Mm-hmm. Really challenging, yet really full of possibility. There's so much duality and complexity here, but you're moving through that with grace and integrity. And so I'm so proud of you that you're ready to have this conversation, because I think
I think it makes a difference for people to hear these things. Everything is not just bliss, right? Social media makes it look like, I mean, dreamy barn life. It is barn life, and dreamy barn life also has these other things that are in the mix, and it's still dreamy.
Right. Exactly. And it is, I thank you so much for that. I appreciate that, because I don't want to ever make it look like something that it's not. And I would assume that anyone listening to this is saying to themselves, oh, yeah, I thought something, or I wasn't sure, or whatever. And it's not, again, I wasn't trying to hide it. I just was trying to do it right. And I think, first of all, there is no right way to do anything, but there most certainly is a way that is right for us individually. And saying yes to yourself does take courage. And when it is in, when you find yourself where your yes is somebody else's no, that is still a gift for both parties, because it is, I don't think it's ever one-sided. I think there's always something that if it's not in alignment for us, it's not in alignment for the other person. And, sometimes we're just the first one to have the courageous conversation, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a client, whether it's with your child, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your friend. When there is conflict, it's uncomfortable, and it's an opportunity to grow together or take separate paths at that time. And it's a part of us finding ourselves, finding what's right for ourselves, finding what makes the most sense in those moments. And that is not something that I ever gave myself time or space to investigate in any relationship. Like, I was more of the person who would just, oh, okay. Like, I want to do this great thing and someone else doesn't. All right. Okay. How can let me get resourceful and let me do the thing that they would like me to do and make it as fun and fabulous for everybody, and put on a smile, because I know that I'm fine. And I'm sure my good will eventually come to me. I'm sure someday my business will take off. Someday my barn will be restored. Someday I'll have a bed and breakfast. Someday, someday I'll be a mom. Someday I'll move to Massachusetts. Like, all of these things. And then I made a decision to say yes to myself, instead of waiting for somebody else to give me permission to have the life that I desired. And I started to create the life that I wanted. And as a part of that, there's some friction. There are some relationships that aren't sustained, similarly to the pandemic and just kind of the shakedown that was. The things that we've all let back in are a little more curated than how things were before that time. And we all have agency. We all have choice. And it's believing in yourself enough to be so committed to your yes that you can take the uncharted trail ahead.
It reminds me of, like I say, that I spend my whole life out running labels, and it feels like a version of that. And that's a paradigm shift. That's a paradigm shift to wake up in your life and say, I'm not going to play that role anymore. I'm not available for it. I'm only available for the things that delight me. I'm only, and that is such a powerful statement. And it's not when you say it, when a person says that, you can take that for face value, and then you can backlash that and go, oh yeah, but like, what about cleaning up the dog poop? And what about cleaning the chicken coop? And what about that? Right. But that's not what that statement means at all. That statement means I am in a mindset and a framework that says that the things I choose are intentional, and I still have to do my duties. I still have to do, take intentional action, but I get to be aligned with it. And I get to decide that I enjoy it. I get to decide that it's for something, oh my God. I mean, we've had this conversation so many times where it's like, oh my God, mowing the lawn again. And it's like, I get to mow the lawn because I get to live on this property that I dreamed up and I manifested.
Yep.
And that's part of it. Right. And it's like, oh man, if we get to walk through our lives looking at the shitty stuff, saying I get to do it, and it's not positive, it's not toxic positivity.
No,
it's literally deciding that we get to do it. It's, I had a conversation with my daughter recently, and I was like, she's young and she's in her tween stuff. And I was like, how about we just go back to the fact, like, we are so lucky that we are breathing today. We are so lucky that we get to look at the sunshine today. And I thought that just went over her head. And then the next day she came back and she's like, I really thought about what you said, and you're right. And I thought, oh my God. But oh my God, that. You heard what I said. You heard what I said. But I think that's what this is. And it's like, you made a paradigm shift in your life and decided to say, yes to me. These are my dreams. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's, it's really courageous, and it takes a whole gamut of emotions and actions, and surrounding yourself with people who are going to tell you like it is and also support you. And, it takes a lot of really intentional action.
I'm so excited by what you just said, Christy. I do think that growth mindset that we've been able to witness with Wendy, and all of your commitment to finding clarity is witnessing that myself has been very powerful. I often will get asked, questions about, what are you going to do? Or what is it that you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. And I've really been working on not saying I don't know, because we actually do know.
Yep.
We haven't given ourselves the space, and I certainly haven't given myself the space to be first, to sit quietly and still and listen and go inside. Because I just, like Wendy said, or like Christy said, you have a million things to do, and they're not all essential. And so I think when I witness you dedicating such time to the practices that you've been doing for a while now.
2 years.
Yeah, for 2 years. Talk about clarity. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really great thing to witness, because as I know you've been going through a lot of hurt, there's such a deep range of emotions when you choose the yes for you, and it's not in alignment with the person you love. Yeah. And how did you work through some of those moments for yourself?
Oh, that's such a good question. Thank you. I think, just like you said, once you start giving yourself the space to explore and identify what you want, it's kind of like all of this personal development work. It's like, once you know it, you can't forget it. You can't go back. You can't unsee or unlearn what you've experienced. And so in taking the time and in holding space for myself and really, really centering in and creating a narrative that reflects what I actually desire, what I desire for this property, for example, and realizing in that is just not in alignment for my husband. And in this courageous conversation, it allowed him to say yes to himself also. And he does not want to be here. I want to be here. So him having the opportunity to not be here anymore has set him up for a yes. So even though we might be afraid to do this investigation, what if I find out what I want and it's not what I already have? That becomes an invitation to the other people in your life to grow with you. And that will be in alignment for them, or release them, which will be in alignment for both of you as well. And so I think that a huge part, well, I don't think, I know that a huge part of this was trusting in my faith, in my relationship with God, and spending so much time in communication, in prayer, in asking for guidance and wisdom and healing and grace and a miracle and all of it. And even though it didn't come the way that I thought it was going to come, it still came. And I feel extremely seen, heard, known, and loved by my Heavenly Father. And it's not that He only loves me and, doesn't care about everybody else in my circle who's not on my train. It's that I owned my own experience is what I did. And that was not the way that I formally lived my life. I was really mindful of navigating other people's comfort level at the detriment of my own. And I thought that's the way I was supposed to be. I thought that meant I was godly. I thought it meant I was noble, I was humble, I was selfless, I was all of these things. And I was dying inside. And it was death by 1,000 paper cuts because no one was mean. So it just became unbearable, knowing what I knew was available, knowing what I know God wants for me and has for me, and that is happiness, that is love, that is service, that is everything that I'm meant to do in my life, and what is going to happen in this place, how the Phineas Wright House is a part of what I do. And I'm glad to be here, and I want to do it well. And I have a voice, and I have good ideas, and I'm going to use my voice, and I'm going to say my good ideas, and I'm going to try 8,000 things, and 3 of them are going to work. And then I'm going to try 8,000 new things, and 10 of them will work, and it'll be great. But I want more, because I know that I can be of greater impact. I want more because I want to be in service to anyone who resonates with what it is I'm doing here. I want people to feel welcomed and anticipated and celebrated, whether they're making a cocktail with me on a Friday night, or they're coming here for a farm stay, or we're going to Paris for a week, or whatever. I want to hold space and be available for the opportunities that God has for me in service to the people that it's for. And I wasn't available to do that before. And now I am. And can't go back.
I think that's an important point right there about the can't going back, because, and I'm asking, I think the next part I'm going to say, and the question I'm going to ask is specifically for your listeners, because I think when we step into these hard spaces and we end up on the other side, we can talk about how, and you're not quite on the other side yet, so you're in it, but we often can talk about how hard it was, but it was worth it. And that can start to fall on deaf ears when it's somebody facing something really hard and challenging that they don't want to do, but they really want to do, right? They really want to do it, but they don't want to do it. I think, for what I'm curious about is, I know you kind of already talked about like wanting to, or being in conversation with God and having that as the source. But in something like this, how did you sort of move through that space and stay committed to that, saying yes to yourself, knowing that what that was, and being okay with outside judgment, outside reaction, right? I know, divorce is a triggering title. It's a triggering thing for a lot of people to have that as attached to them. So like because from the outside looking in, you're moving through that and you make these decisions and you stick to them. And I think a lot of people want so many other things for their lives and can't quite get through that threshold. They can't quite step into that space. They're too fearful of ridicule, outside judgment, all of these things. So I feel like you are moving through that space. So
yes,
like how?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and it might sound crazy, but I decided and I made a decision that I am not available for any conversations that come with any form of lack or judgment or anything. Negativity. I am only available for conversations that are, I've told KB, unicorns and rainbows and champagne flutes. That's it. That's all I'm available for. And I've thought about this, and someone may think that that means I'm in total denial. And to that, I say, no, I am in total choice. And I get to decide. I get to choose how I do this. And this is how I choose to do it. I choose to do it with grace and kindness and love and respect and an absolute knowledge that there is not a person that is my source. God is my source. So I do not know how this is all going to play out. I don't know. There are people that are convinced that I won't be able to do this, that I'm going to fail. I'm not available to talk to them. They can have conversations. They can say whatever they wish to say. I cannot be in that environment, and I don't need to. And I'm not going to defend my actions or my choices to people who already don't think I'm going to make it. I am 100% committed to my success. So I am only making myself available for environments that support that. And I've said it before on this podcast, and I've said it to you. If that means that I only talk to 5 people this year, I don't care. 3 of them are you guys. And you're queens, and I love you, and I could talk to you all day and I talk to you every day. So that is how I do it. I decided. Now, there are also things about my day-to-day life that support that. I live on a small farm. So I have chores all day long, every day, and I don't leave. When I do school pickup and drop off, and I go to the airport. Those are the places that I go. So all day long, I choose to surround myself with conversations, whether it's me in a meditation or in a prayer, or I have a podcast going in my ear, or I'm listening to a book on Audible, whatever. I am constantly filling my heart, filling my mind, filling my soul with positivity, with
nourishment.
Yes, with encouragement, with truth that supports my success.
Can I ask you a personal question? It dovetails a little bit with what Christy said. And
I don't know. I'm extremely shallow and I'm not interested in inviting anybody into what's going on, but you can ask.
I think that, I mean, thank you. So many nuggets in there about resilience and about nourishment for you personally. And I guess, this is again for your listeners. And as you go through those painful moments, how do you shift your mindset? And not in a space, resilience sort of has like this curve, right? So I want to hear about this space where for me, it's tears, honestly, or it's just being a little bit depressed in the morning. It's sort of like that space where it feels like a tidal wave, or maybe the programming is just so you can't even get out of it. How did you move through that? And I'm sure it comes in waves. I just want to hear about your experience with that.
I thank you for that. I would say that I don't take this for granted. Is that the right word? Granted? I don't say it for granted. I don't take this for granted. I am a very joyful person, and I wake up happy every day. There was one day last year that I woke up unhappy with just stress and heaviness. And it was so out of my normal for me. But I was grateful for it because I thought, oh my gosh, like this is how some other people feel every day. This is awful. Oh my gosh, I don't want to experience this. So I don't know why I don't suffer from those very real, very active, debilitating emotions that other people experience. And I totally honor and acknowledge that. And I'm really grateful that that is just not me. I do wake up happy every day. I have been showing up authentically this whole time. I haven't been trying to, make something look better just because I hit live. I mean, anyone that watches, because when I hit live, it's like, that's the first time I've been in front of the mirror. So that's typically why I'm like, oh my gosh, my hair, what is happening? Because I just didn't see it until then. But I've been showing up authentically. So as happy as anyone has seen me this whole time, that is really how I've been. One of the reasons that has made me, accelerate my own personal timeline of when I was going to share this information is just because people were giving credit to the amazing support that I get at home. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, oh gosh, like I need to write that, and I need to share what's happening, because I don't want that to be misconstrued. And so the support that I've gotten, the support that fuels me, is my connection with the divine and my connection with community. It's you guys. It's the sweet, fabulous people that send me gorgeous love notes after listening to this podcast. It is the people that show up on my Instagram, the people that show up for my trips, all of these things. It's this community, which is why I need to loop everybody in, because I need you guys. I'm operating in my gifts. Like, this fills me up because this is what I am supposed to do. And this is where my fuel is coming from. I mean, earlier when I said, like, I'm a single mom, I'm a solopreneur, like, that sounds so sad. And I would say that in my life, in many situations, my story or title has always been sadder than I actually am. Like, I was that, that sweet lady who runs the kids department at her church, but she's barren and she can't have a baby. Like, that's so sad. But I wasn't that sad. But I wanted to be a mom. And, I was living in Southern California or Northern California, wanting to be in Massachusetts. Like, that's sad. But like I said, when I was on Christy's podcast, I live the life I have until I get the one I want. And then I live that one too. So this is all very authentic. And I I do acknowledge and realize that everybody doesn't just wake up happy. But a thing that keeps me happy, that sustains me, is first of all, starting my days with Amelia, because she is the most amazing human I've ever met. And she brings me great amounts of joy. Having time in the morning to connect with my source brings me great amounts of joy. Walking out to feed my chickens and looking at this beautiful property that I get to call home brings me joy. Mowing the lawn brings me joy. All those things that Christy said earlier too, like all of this being here, all of these things that I do every single day support the life that I want. So that is how. And not being available to be in conversations that don't support what my plan is. And again, not in denial, in total choice.
Well, I think what's interesting is that you're pointing out that you wanted to bring this up because it was starting to feel like uncomfortable in terms of your integrity. And part of it was that people were thinking that you had this amazing support network within your home. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, I don't think you're putting it out here like to set the record straight necessarily, or for an ego thing or anything like that. I think this is about this idea of bringing to light that we can step into these things even when things are not going as planned around us. And that it's our choice on where we find our source, where we find our power, where we find our intentional action, right? And so to me, it's like you are an inspiration to people who are in a similar situation, who are like, I could never leave this because my life is set up like this. Because if I'm unhappy now, imagine how unhappy I will be as a single person. Imagine how hard it will be to do all the tasks. Imagine how hard it will be to pay the bills, right? I think that is the story, not only that we develop, but is told to us. And just like you were going and saying, like the labels, right? I think this labels topic is really juicy, because the label of being the barren woman who, works at the church, that is such a terrible story. That's one, not true. And two, what if that woman didn't want children?
But it was true.
Yeah. But I'm saying that like these labels start to tell these stories, and we don't know even what that person wants.
Right.
And there's a version waiting for them. Mm-hmm. You're testament to that. Right. But I think like part of, why it's so powerful to share out, and why, like this is just part of your integrity. You felt it in your body that you hit a moment where you're like, okay, this is not in alignment anymore. And it's not like, oh, I don't want people to give someone credit that they didn't get. That's not it. That's not what right. I see. What it is, because, when you say like, people were saying I had this amazing support network, but I didn't. And I wanted them to know. It's not because you wanted them to know that the other person wasn't supportive. It's because you want them to know that there is internal personal power that allows you to do all of this, and that they have it in them too.
That's right.
That's it. They have it in them too. Whatever situation they're facing, they have it inside themselves. And yes, we surround ourselves with people who tell us the right things. We surround ourselves with all of the podcasts and all of the writings and all of the, scripture and all of these amazing, richly beautiful things. But in the end, the story that we're telling ourselves in our own mind is what's driving the bus. And our limitations are only what we put in front of us. And so that's what I think that story, I'm just feeling this right now, but I just feel so fully that like the reason why you were called to tell people now mm-hmm. was because you want them to see that they have the power inside of them too. Yep. That is the power of saying yes to yourself. It's
yes.
Whatever you're facing. Yes, you need a support network, but that is not the most powerful thing. The most powerful thing is you.
That's right. Go. Yes. So good. It's so good. And to that point though, and I want to clarify what I meant by the label, because it is on purpose that I say, I'm doing this by myself. I have, sometimes people come and help me, which is so great. I have a snowplow driver. Hooray. I learned how to use a chainsaw. Sweet Mary comes and helps me with the gardens. It's so good. And it's so good. And I'm so grateful and I'm so happy to be here. But I also need to acknowledge that I need people.
Yeah.
I need people to desire to incorporate the offers that I create for them. I need people to buy my stuff. I need, I need to be a successful entrepreneur. I don't need to just be a supported, positive, encouraging entrepreneur. And I think that being vulnerable and letting people know that I actually need you. I need you so that I can keep doing this good work. I do not have a trust fund. I do not have a bankroll. I do not know what the future holds, but God is my source and he holds my future. So I'm not afraid. And I desire to exchange an extremely valuable product for the support that people give for my business to grow. Like there's a
you're bringing
exchange. Yeah, like it's clean energy.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that I do need help. I do need their support. I can't be me if there's no you that wants to come here or wants to be here or wants to eat cookies or go to France or whatever.
Yeah. But I think you're bringing people along the journey with you. I think that's what's really important is that you're not like, look at me, see all this beauty. Look at me, see all this beauty, see this dreamy barn life. You're like, no, come with me. Yeah. Come on the ups and downs, see what it's like, be a part of this. Let's take this journey. Let's do this thing. Let's say yes to ourselves and see how we feel on the other side. Let's just be, and so I think that's what's nice. So it's like, you're bringing people along the journey with you and they're seeing all the pieces and parts that go into that.
And hopefully their own story as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the silent one. A thoughtful thinker. I think every question that I had was answered. How do you take those steps to add the action you need to realign when you're out of integrity? Because I think that's the part that feels daunting for people is you can say it, but how do you, practically put one foot in front of the other some days to be able to align and make those choices? And I think, you shared some of the practices that you have and the way that you show up and see things. And that's your way of doing that. That's your way. I know about your morning routine from the beginning, and that is your way of putting one foot in front of the other. And I think sometimes when people are in a place that's difficult, it's hard to believe that those tiny steps can make an impact, because when you're in a place that feels hard, it's hard to reconcile that something that seems so simple is a solution. And I think something else that you said was, people are sometimes afraid to ask the questions of themselves because they're afraid of the answer, even when the answer they already know, but they don't want to hear it. And I think that can be really scary because you want to show up truthfully and authentically for yourself, but, being able to shift to that concept that no one else is your source, especially for, lifelong people pleasers and things like that. It's hard. It's hard to shift your mind to say that the opinions of others, while you're not inconsiderate of others, but their opinions are theirs and their experiences are theirs. And how we choose to show up every day and put one foot in front of the other is our own choice. But this is hard sometimes.
Thank you, KB.
I think that's a really important point. It's, it's the day-to-day small choices and actions that make the big impact, but those are sometimes the most difficult ones to make,
Yeah. I think the day-to-day is so important because the allure and the temptation to self-abandon it shows up every day. So if we're not showing up every day in our power, if we're not showing up every day choosing ourselves, if we are not showing up every day in our yes, which, as we all know, saying yes to ourselves, everybody wins. Years pass, time passes, you look back and like, what happened? How did this happen? And it's like anything, it needs attention. It needs nurturing. It needs time and space and intention and action. And it doesn't happen by itself. Neglect. I've learned this buying a house that is 238 years old. Neglect is the enemy. If I see something that isn't right, I can't walk past it. First of all, I'll walk past 4 other things and forget about the first one. And then that something terrible is going to happen. But it's maintenance. It needs to be attended to. And when we have a check in our spirit, when we have like, oh, that made me really angry, or that made me really sad, or I responded even in a way that surprised myself, we cannot blow that off. Like, it needs attention and it needs communication. And, hopefully you're in a position where like that's what the other person wants too. But if not, support, you deserve to be supported. I deserve to be supported. You deserve to be loved. I deserve to be loved. We deserve to be happy. That is not selfish. That is not just something, if everything else works out, happy is the icing. No, God wants us to be happy. I want you to be happy, and I want to be happy too.
I love too that with the being happy and deserving things. I don't remember who mentioned it, but it was like when we get to our kids being older, or as these certain milestones, right? Like when we reach these certain milestones, then you can kind of dig into yourself. And I think you really believe every single day is a choice about epic living.
Yes.
And I love witnessing that. And I believe that's true. I think, the journey is the epic living, not where you're going. And so, but that includes letting pain get to a place in your life where it actually surfaces and we accept it. And we're all going to have a filter that's different of how we handle that. I might be going into my closet and crying. Each of us will handle that differently, but the fact that we're letting it get to the surface and pass out of our bodies, and then just moving forward with like the next piece. So epic living is not all unicorns and rainbows to the extent of always feeling like a little bit like we talked about toxic positivity.
Right.
It's really allowing yourself to be present and to feel whatever it is that, we're all going through, because it allows us to move through it and keep living an epic life.
Right. And you guys, you witnessed me be in absolute avoidance for a really long time to have these courageous conversations.
It's funny. I was just getting ready to go back to saying, if there's one thing I know about you, Wendy, you always talk about courageous conversations. So it's so funny that you just came back to that, because I wanted to bring that up. And this is how these groups work, right?
That's right.
We are synchronous over here.
We are.
I think courageous conversations are so important. And most of the time, we blow them up into something that's so outrageous before we actually have it. And we tell this big story about how terrible they're going to be, whatever the outcome is going to be. And in the end, the actual act of doing it is way less than all of the craziness you build up in your mind before. But what I think we're talking about today is this idea that really, and this is sort of a cliche statement, but it's so true that I have to say it, everything that is worth anything in our lives is on the other side of fear, and the price of admission is courage. And it's our job to step into that courage consistently. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in the world, we've been sold this idea, this dream that, oh my God, you do all the hard work and then you get to the other side and it's just bliss and you'll just miraculously live in joy and happiness every day. And that's not it. And that's not even the goal. Right. Because when we talk about being aligned, we can't possibly get aligned unless we've had friction. Mm-hmm. Friction is essential. Discomfort is essential to get to the alignment. And so it's always a dance. We get uncomfortable. then we become aligned. Oh, wait. Oh, let's get uncomfortable again. And that's how we keep moving forward. That's how we move the needle. And so I think, if there's one thing we all know, being entrepreneurs, is that it is all about the dance. It is all about the roller coaster ride. And what we're trying to do is keep the pendulum from swinging too far either direction, keeping it in this middle space of balance where it's still swinging. You're feeling all of these things, but you recover faster. The ball swings back faster. And I think that has to do with staying consistent. It has to do with, like what you were saying, being really committed to the practices that fill your cup, that start your day already like rejuvenated. It's not about the sleep. It's about what do you do in the first couple hours of your day that set you up so that you can handle the really crappy thing that's going to happen at 3 p.m. and then you can figure out how to bounce back by 4:30 p.m.
And you learn things that they're not as catastrophic as we have created in our minds that they might be. And I think for me, recently with learning, it's taken me 50 years to get to a place of understanding that it is catastrophic to me to disappoint people or to feel like they've disappointed me. And Wendy, I wonder, as you've gone through this journey, I believe that you saying yes to yourself, the importance of you're better for everybody else. And so often, for me with disappointment, it's like, I will put myself second because I just don't want to disappoint the ones that I love. I mean, namely your nucleus. And I believe that you have gone through like this place of understanding that. And at the core, your value says, I'm going to serve you best. When I do fill my cup, it's the best for all of us. Right. And that's an amazing gift to witness because I still struggle with that. And I know that I imagine as if I were going through a separation or divorce, I would be like, oh my gosh, my parents, my brothers and sisters, my kids, the men. And so I really respect you for that.
Thank you. Well, and, to that point, that was the reason that I made the decision, because self-abandoning, like in my mind, the only one that loses when I self-abandon is me, until I realized that I do not want to model that to Amelia. I don't want her to think that you stay in a marriage that is not fulfilling your needs. If she told me that she did that because she thought that's what you were supposed to do, I would be outraged at me, because I'm Wendy Harrop. I'll put a bow on it. Don't you worry. And I'll serve cookies on the side and I'll be happy. And I make my happy. I bring my happy with me. I'm happy. I don't need anything because I'm happy. And I needed more. I needed more from my marriage. Like that's the only
unhappy.
You actually needed to be happy. Like that's the crux of it. You actually needed to be happy.
Right.
Instead of just putting a bow on it and projecting happiness. You were like, no, it's time to actually truly be happy.
I needed relationship. I didn't need a friend. I have great friends. I needed more from that particular relationship. And I deserve more and he deserves more.
I think it's interesting to look at the perspective from your child, because like whenever I've tried to do my own inner child work, I have huge resistance to that. I can't see myself as a child, not anymore, but in the beginning it was like, oh God, what is this process? Oh my God, I don't need to talk to my little child. Like, what the heck? But as soon as I thought of my daughter at the same age as they were asking me to think of myself, I thought of, oh my God, she has unlimited potential. Oh my God, if anybody ever told her she can't do something, I would smack him in the face. Right? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I started getting heated and like upset and, emotional. And I thought, what is the thing that doesn't allow me to let my own little inner child girl have that sort of like vigilant fierceness behind it? Why am I telling her, no, just quiet down over there. I don't need to visit you. I'm a grown up now. And it's like, it's amazing to, see it through the eyes of your children, because you would never tell them to suck it up.
Never.
and just do what you're supposed to do. Like I would never do that to my kid now. I mean, maybe in some scenarios, maybe I'm like, okay, get your math done. Okay, just do it. But on the bigger things I'm talking about, like I would never be like, you're not good enough. Quiet down.
Right.
Stop that. And so I
Why
think
we do that why do you think we do that to ourselves? What is the block that we like? Where do we go with that?
For me, that's when my toxic positivity comes in. Like, I don't think I have toxic positivity now with me only being available for conversations that are encouraging to me. I had toxic positivity then where I just made it okay. Because it was me. Like I knew I would be fine.
Get through it. Yeah.
Right. I'm me. I know everything that's going on inside and I can feel it and I can go along because it was death by 1,000 paper cuts. It wasn't, nobody was mean to each other.
And
so
it's like, we're never in line first for ourselves to nourish ourselves.
Right.
That ultimately you're nourishing, your daughter is, or our kids. And I totally agree with what you said, Christy. It's like, yeah, we wouldn't do that to our kids, but Lord, if we do that to ourselves. And it's
that I'm so tough on my inner child. I punch her in the face like every day. Like it's a work in progress for me. For me, I think the block is that I had to grow up really fast, really early, because I lost my dad as a child. And everything that I accomplished in my life had to do with sucking it up, not showing emotion, just power through, make it happen.
Take care of everybody else.
And be your best. And be your best was like, don't show the cracks, don't make a misstep. And I don't even know if it was like anybody actually telling me that, or it was like, I just internalized it. I was like, oh, trauma happened. I got to go in here. I'm going to save everyone. And nothing can ever look like it's difficult.
Yeah.
And so to go back and think about that little girl, which is around the age when that trauma happened, it's really difficult for me to go back there and have empathy towards her as a child, because I don't actually see her as a child. I see her as like, oh my God, you had to do it. And the only way that you get to be successful is to step into the masculine and power through stuff. Don't be crying. There's no time for tears. Get out of the way. And so I think that that's it. But then, when I look at my daughter, I don't have that relationship about that with her. And so her emotion is very important to me.
Yeah.
Her mental well-being is very important to me. Who she is and what she thinks about herself and the story that she's telling herself inside is the most important thing in my life. I would say, actually, if I were to really put this out, it's more important than anything that I put my time and energy into. And maybe that's because I don't want her to have the same stories, but she's not going to have the same stories because she didn't have the same experience. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think we all have to find the thing that allows us to give the permission. And for me, it was seeing it through the eyes of my daughter, which allowed me to eventually come to the place where I could see it through the eyes of me as a child, but I couldn't do it immediately. And I think that that's something that I've learned through this self-development journey, is that we all are going to come to these things in different ways and methods. Inner child work works for some people. Meditation, transcendental meditations, soul recodes, sound baths, like healing work, like all of these different things, prayer, all of that. It's different for each person, but we each have to find the little nugget in the path, and then follow the next one and the next one and the next one to keep excavating. But the most powerful thing is to stay consistent and to promise yourself that you're going to keep doing it, because it's so easy. And you said this before, Wendy, it's so easy to self-abandon and say, oh my God, like, yeah, my life right now is painful, but going in and doing that work is more painful. I mean, there's sometimes when I'm like, why did we open up the self-development can of worms? Close it. This is hard, but it's hard in a way that actually moves the needle to a better place. Right. 95% of people are moving through their life in survival mode and just subsisting. emotionally, spiritually. And when we crack into that and we have the courage to dive into those dark places and those uncomfortable spaces, and Cindy, you've said this a million times, to discover things that we really don't like about ourselves and learn compassion and empathy for those things,
all the parts,
and how to love all those parts. That's actually really powerful work. And like both of you said, it's a practice. All of these things are practices. They're muscles. We have to keep doing them every single day. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my queens. I treasure you. I appreciate you again holding space for me to have this conversation. It was 1,000 times easier having you with me, leading up to this conversation, and of course going forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for like the honor of being in the space with you. I think it's amazing to step through these murky spaces together in community, in collaboration, in love, and to give ourselves, and you included, the permission to be messy and to let out emotion and to feel things and to look a way that we maybe don't want anyone to see, but to be courageous to go and do that. So thank you for like inviting me or us in to be on that journey with you, because that's why you're making quantum leaps. That's how you're moving forward. That vulnerability piece is key. So I feel very honored, and thank you so much for having us be a part of it.
Thank you, my queens. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.